we're bringing back the classics. If you have somebody you want to impress, put on a masterclass in your kitchen, I'm going to show you how to take a regular old store-bought chicken and turn it into a Michelin-star dish in under a day. Poulet farci. What is it? It's chicken stuffed chicken. We're going to take the dark meat, the legs, and make a beautiful farce, packed full of mushroom-and-duxelles, truffles, herbs. Put that just below the skin. We're gonna roast it up till it's golden brown. Let's get into it. The first step in processing this bird is cleaning it up and isolating the crown. So starting with a 3.5 pound bird, that's our favorite. Two really important things when you're purchasing this bird at the store. Up at the top here, you want as much excess skin as possible because you're kind of creating a pocket under the skin to pipe in the farce. So look for a lot here and check the sides. Typically the leg here, the bottom of the crown, those are the areas where you'll see the most rips when you're buying a bird. So look out for those. You're trying to make sure all the skin's completely intact because you don't want the farce to burst out while you're cooking it. We're gonna take the wishbone now. You're gonna lift up the skin around the neck, find the bone, make a slice on each side of it. Using your fingers, pinch around the wishbone. It might break, that's okay. Just fish out all those pieces. Up in the neck, there is a lot of excess fat here. We're trying to make the skin as even as possible. That way it roasts really even, and taking this fat off is gonna help us stitch it up later. So you just peel it off. Now we're gonna take the legs out. So flip it, legs facing towards you on the board. So we're gonna locate the oysters. Oysters are the muscles near the back here along the spine on the legs. What we'll do is about in the middle of the backbone here, slice all the way down. There is like a little pocket here. It's a socket joint. That's where the oyster muscle is sitting. So using the tip of the knife, you're just gonna get it started there. Once you have that cut started, you're just gonna put your finger in there and trace it. If you look at that bone there, not a piece of meat on it. That's the oyster. Using the tip of your knife, just a couple millimeters deep, you're gonna trace along the bone, just below the skin. And you're gonna peel that skin back about 1 inch or so. Okay, we're just gonna repeat that on the other side. Just about where the oysters are, put your thumbs and you're gonna pop the bone out of the socket. You'll hear a sound of pop. So we're gonna start making shallow cuts. Cut through it. So that leg is now only attached by skin. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now both legs are only attached by the skin. So because there's a cut here, this is the weakest point and that's where the skin's gonna rip. With my non-dominant hand, I'm gonna hold that tight. So there is no tension on that cut where it might rip. Hold that tight, and then you're gonna use your fingers and just peel that dark meat from the skin. Just give it a gentle rip, holding your skin again, and you're gonna pull that leg up. It's gonna catch here at the very end. I've done this many, many times, don't worry about it. Just grip it, grip it. The only thing you need to be worried about is that dark meat flying out of your hands. And do the same thing to the other side. Okay. Boom. Crown refers to the upper part of the spine and the wings attached to the breast with the rest removed from it. So we have the wings. This is the breast here. This is your line. This is a seam. So we're going to trim just below it, cut through the spine. There you go. We have our crown. Next up, we're going to brine this. Our brine we're injecting is 5% salt to 100% water. It's going to help plump up the breast, making them super juicy. So totally optional. We recommend it though. So in the bottom of each breast, we're gonna inject 50 ml. If you're looking for one stage to skip in this whole process, this is probably the one. You don't have to do the injection brine. The farce that we're gonna be adding beneath the skin is very well seasoned. And you can even just add a little bit of salt before roasting. On top of the breast, each breast, 50 more ml of brine. So this baby's all juiced up. Let's work on getting the skin dialed in, stitched up, and let's keep going. So we're gonna be stitching up the skin at the very bottom of the crown. First things first, we're gonna go breast side down. Take the skin at the very top of the bird and pull that skin. I have some bamboo skewers. First thing, take 3 skewers and I'm gonna pin this right into the back. This is all bone here, so don't worry about it. All right. There's a little bit of excess skin here. I can cut it a little bit closer to that fat line because this is just flapping there. I just can't resist not cutting it off. It's not gonna affect the recipe. It bugs me putting all this work into it. So now we're gonna stitch up the skin on the back. This is gonna help trap that farce so it steams, it doesn't blow out during the cook. If you take that skin, put it against the very edge of the breast, you're gonna want roughly 2 to 3 inches of excess skin. But just taking my thumb here, top of the skin, that's about how much I wanna cut that skin back. Don't be yanking on this, just hold it up. You can always cut off more of the skin later. Do that on the other side, about 2 to 3 inches. This is why it's important to make sure your bird is not ripped when you buy it from the store. If that rip is very large, that tear is going to go all the way up here, and this bird is not going to be sewn up cleanly. So we're going to take the point of the skewer, and we're going to go about a 1/2 inch into the skin. I've found through trials that about a 1/2 inch is the safest, sturdiest way to braid it up. We're going to go through here. You're just going to repeat that. Slide it down, skin from this side, stretch it over, 1/2 inch, stretch it over, and it'll be pretty snug on there. So sometimes you just need to push the skin down, and you're going to keep repeating that. You might find that you have a lot of extra skin here. Seems like I do. I'm going to trim that away. What I'm seeing that's telling me I have too much skin left on there is it's getting kind of bunched up right here. Slide it down the skewer, a little extra here. You don't need to braid it all the way shut. That's a little overkill, which is good for us. This is tight enough. You can see on the sides here, skin is nice and tight. There's no rips exposed. To kind of help anchor this skewer, we're gonna push it right into the spine here. Press the skin down, push it in. That was a lot, huh? That was a lot. Last thing here, we have a lot of skewer exposed here. Get rid of that. So now we're gonna remove the skewers, flip it over, and we're gonna make sure the skin is separated from the breast. Here I found it best to use a spoon or a spatula. The important thing is you need a longer, dull utensil. Something that's not gonna puncture the skin, but it can get places where your finger can't go. Lifting up the skin, push it in. There are pieces of membrane attaching the skin to the breast. So we wanna break through that membrane so that way we have more control of putting the farce in there. What I found best is to insert it right next to the keel bone in the middle. I don't want to block it too much here, but you're gonna swipe it to the side. There are certain areas where there's more membrane attaching it. If you don't break those, you're gonna get this lumpy, brainy effect, and it's gonna be kind of gnarly looking. So this crown is prepped, ready to rock. While we process the dark meat for the farce, we're just gonna get this in the fridge. That's just gonna jumpstart the skin drying out, and the brine's gonna do a little bit of work in the meantime. So let's get that. All right, so at this point, we're gonna be processing the dark meat to start making the farce. I like to start by processing the skin first. Skin is a little tricky to work with. It's slippery, it's a little rubbery. So while it's super cold, it will cut a little bit easier. Most food processors, blades are super dull. So anything you can do to help it out is good. So you kind of slice and then press through. The skin will help hold it up and make a better, firmer puree. So it's tender, but it's not gonna be a gloopy mess. Okay, jumping into the dark meat, this line right here, we're gonna separate the drumstick from the thigh. Do this on both of them. Start with the thighs first, bone in the middle, tip of the knife, make a cut on each side of the bone. Pinch it, knife beneath, goes right up. Grab the bottom of it, pull it. Okay, the bone's removed. Each of these thighs, lay them out lengthwise, turn it, and then cutting them into fourths going this way. Yep. Got the line here on the drumstick. Lots of tendons in here, so it's a little trickier. Some resistance. So the bone's exposed, again, pinch in the middle, cut it off at the end. Again, kind of using like the lower 2-3 inches of your knife, the heel of it, out there, pull it, trim it. We're not making a roulade with this, we're making a puree. There are a lot of tendons here, keeping in mind that it's chicken. Those aren't super unruly, but we're gonna take a little bit of them out, but we're not gonna waste too much time cleaning it up. Mostly looking for pieces of cartilage that I might have left, trim those off. Sometimes what I do is just take tip of my knife. Sometimes some of the tendons just wanna come right out. All these tendons exposed at the end, take those off. Okay, slice the drumstick down the middle, cut it into fourths. We have all the dark meat here, the skin, both of them are processed up. Now we're gonna blend it up with our seasoning and make a really, really smooth farce. We got our food processor. First things first, we're gonna add our diced up skin to it. Because of the volume and how tough the skin, it doesn't blend up super easy. So we're gonna blend it for about 20 to 30 second intervals 3 times. There are some chunks still of the skin. That's okay, because we're gonna blend this a lot more with the dark meat. We're gonna measure out 250 grams of dark meat. We're gonna get our seasoning in. Bouillon powder, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, seasoning, cornstarch. Okay, so at the beginning stages of blending, the farce will be a lot pinker. As we blend it, it gets smoother, a lot of the fat comes out, and a lot of air is incorporated, it will become a lot lighter in color. So we're gonna blend 30-second intervals, about 3 times. Make sure it's nice and smooth. From my experience, you really can't overblend this. We're gonna get this smooth. Checking this out, very pasty, it's lighter in color. So now it's time to get the stock in there. And we're gonna add a little bit of honey to season it as well. We'll transfer this to our bowl. We have the mushroom-duxelles we made before. Simple cremini mushrooms. Food process them to grind them up, put them in a pan, cook them down slow and low for about 20 minutes. That's gonna concentrate the flavor and cook out a lot of the water. It has this nice kind of slight chewy texture to it that almost resembles a truffle. It's been dried out. Essentially, these mushrooms are just gonna be studying the farce, giving it a beautiful appearance, texture, and flavor. For the herbs, I got chives, minced up, a little bit of thyme leaves. I don't blend these in because I think that just really destroys the color of it. Canned truffle is completely optional. They're easy to find, they're super cheap, but it doesn't make or break this dish. A little of this flavor is gonna go a long ways. So I'm gonna add half of this farce to the piping bag. We're trying to avoid large pockets of air. You could slam this on the table. Farce is ready to go. Time to stuff the crown. We kept the membrane attached along the keel bone here. So we have 2 pockets essentially under the skin to pipe the farce in. So I'm gonna start on the left side, transfer over to the right. So we're gonna work through this slowly. By the neck, we're gonna lift the skin up. So under the skin, we're gonna push this bag down as far as it goes. Don't force it though, because you can easily rip the skin here. We're trying to fill up this bottom cavity here at the very bottom of the breast. To focus it in that area, to apply a little bit of pressure on the farce, the end of the piping bag here, I'm gonna put my palm, I'm gonna rest it here. You can see on the sides there, up to the wing, and then moving the piping bag back towards the middle. Okay. So I would say you don't want to apply too much pressure because you can have that farce break through the sides. You can see how it's a nice separation there from the keel bone. Okay, now we're gonna do that on the other side. Working up to the wing, same as we did on the left breast, push it down. So this might seem a little excessive. It's not as simple as just taking the piping bag in there. You wanna make sure that farce is evenly packed in there. And you put the skin down and you press it back, just packing that farce in. Now you can start to see why, if you don't have this extra skin at the top of the crown, this is a complete nightmare. You're not gonna be able to seal it up tight. We're gonna pin this back. Here's the end of the skin. Put the skewer about a 1/2 inch down. That way it doesn't rip as there is more tension. Pull it down and then skewer it in. Okay, on each side. Looking at this, this is great. I have extra skin here, 3 skewers in. Again, trimming them back to about a 1/2 inch. So I found it important for the breast to be parallel with the elements in your oven. You can prop it up with a ball of foil, or better yet, with these exposed skewers here on the baking rack. Just like that, you're ready to rock. So now that we have this all packaged up neatly, we're gonna be going into a 2-stage roast. So the first stage is a low temperature roast for a long time. This is about making sure the meat is super juicy, as well as hitting our target temperatures without overcooking it. Second stage of the roast, after we rest it, is we're gonna put it back in a wicked hot oven, super high temperature for a short period of time. This is gonna allow the external crust, the skin, to come up and brown super, super fast. So we're not gonna overcook the farce, the emulsion that's really delicate. So by putting the dark meat on the outside, it's kind of creating an insulation that is gonna be cooked hotter as the heat transfers through to the breast. So it's kind of a perfect setup for the outside to cook hotter while the inside stays super nice and juicy. So the 2-stage cook, dark meat on the outside, tender white meat on the inside. This is actually a really practical, beautiful way to roast a chicken. So there is some rhyme and reason behind all this work. So we have a lot of information on how to temp this thing. Because we've packed so much farce in there, This probe is needed to go a lot deeper, all the way in. We're just past the joint right there, just above the tenderloin. That's right where we want to be. So from here, we're going to put it in the low temperature oven, and depending on the size, it'll cook for about 2.5 hours. We know what temperature we're going for, 145 in the breast. Monitoring our temp. It's just where we want it to be. We're coming right up onto 145 degrees Fahrenheit in the breast. Let's pull it out and we're gonna let it rest. And the temperature is gonna drop all the way down to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That way it's gonna be a lot more forgiving and resilient before we put it back into the oven at the very end for that last blast roast for the nice colored skin. So we don't need the probe because this is rested and the temperature's dropped so much. Now we're gonna go into the final roast. So our oven is cranked as high as it can go, convection on, and we're just gonna blast the skin. This final roast is only gonna be up for 10 minutes because the oven's hot, convection's on. This final roast is real quick in the oven, so there's no real worry about overcooking. We're gonna brush it with fat. I love using clarified butter because of the flavor, and I use that butter for the plating. You can use a neutral oil too, like canola, vegetable oil if you want. This is gonna help with the browning. So we're gonna brush all over the skin. And this fat is great for helping conduct the heat. It's gonna expedite the browning. Here we go. Let's pop in the oven, get some color. I'm just gonna carve this up almost like it's at the pass back in my restaurant days. Just on the right side of the keel bone. Gotta wipe your knife as you go. Take the skewer out. Right by the wing. You do long strokes. This technique of carving is not for maximum yield. This is for most beautiful portions you can get out of it. Making sure we got the tenderloin. Each of these breasts you can cut into 2, maybe 3 portions. Got our breast portions on seafold towels, wicking up any excess moisture that comes off. We're gonna brush it with clarified butter. Helps prevent it from oxidizing, keeps it fresh longer. Got our potato pave. This is my chicken demi, packed full of sherry wine, pressure cooked brown chicken stock, reduced down, a little bit of salt, just on the breast. There you go. Classic dish, precise technique, beautiful textures, beautiful flavor. If you're looking for the perfect dish for the holidays to impress a small group of people, this is it. The farci chicken stuffed chicken. And get the recipe at ChefSteps.com.
Subscribe to our channel and visit ChefSteps.com for more tips, recipes, guides, and tools to help you level up in the kitchen.